How we doing, guys? Welcome to DT's Daily. Now, on today's show, we're going to be talking about the Premier League, and it looks like there may well be a breakthrough with the situation and neutral venues. We're also going to be speaking about players returning to training and what they actually need to do before they are allowed to do so. And the last piece of news involves Thomas Partey, and one of his Ghana teammates has been talking about a potential move to Arsenal in the summer.
I represent my fucking self.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to DT's Daily. That's right.
So the first place we're going to start is that news about the neutral venues. Now, this has dominated the headlines for the last few days or even the last week or so. And it's very, very evident if you watched my show yesterday that no team in the Premier League wants to play matches at a neutral venue. They want to have home advantage, and they want it to be a level playing field for everybody. Now, a lot of the talk over the last week has been that the games will have to be at a neutral venue, and that if they're not, there won't be any football. But there may look like there's a breakthrough because Premier League clubs are to hold talks with the local police forces this week with the hopes the idea of using neutral venues can be scrapped. A number of clubs believe their local force, along with the Safety Advisory Group, which issues safety certificates allowing matches to take place, will confirm that they are willing to sanction the playing of traditional home matches. Sky Sports have confirmed that definitely there is no local agreement on football policing at Premier League or EFL grounds, and that the policing policy is taken from the national standpoint where local forces follow. To ease fears of large crowds of supporters gathering outside stadiums, clubs will issue strict warnings to fans and will hand out long-term stadium bans lasting several years to anyone that's identified outside their stadiums on a match day. Monday's meeting of Premier League stakeholders agreed that the league would try to convince the Department of Culture, Media and Sport to relax its stance on the need for neutral venues when planned fixtures return, hopefully in June. Deputy Chief Constable, head of the UK football unit, says dialogue has been taken place about how the season can restart so that he can provide guidelines to forces across the country. He said on Tuesday that following a positive meeting between the police, government and football, we will be jointly exploring a range of options to identify a way forward, which minimise any risk to public safety, unnecessary pressure on public services, but facilitate a sensible restart to the season to support the economic and moral benefits associated with the sport. So yeah, that's a bit interesting. I think that maybe the Premier League have looked at it and said, look, we're never going to get football going again because nobody's agreeing to the neutral venue idea. Now, it's a lot easier to, put your foot down when there's only 4 or 5 teams, but when it's supposedly all 20 sides, they're fighting a losing battle. So they need to get this one over the line. And of course, it's determined by the police, which is, by the government. But they're looking to maybe make those steps in the right direction. And one interesting point in there is about clubs themselves will issue stadium bans for fans that are gathering outside stadiums on a match day. What I will say to that is most notably probably Liverpool. And that's no disrespect to Liverpool, their fans or anything else. They've waited 30 years to win a league title. And you can just see that Liverpool winning the title at Anfield, the fans will naturally come out into the streets and start to celebrate. I don't blame them in a sense because you would want to do that, but common sense needs to prevail and you cannot do that. But will they be able to stop doing that? Maybe the threat of having a stadium ban will be, the deterrent that they need and to, make sure that they do behave themselves and they do not breach the guidelines, because that won't be great. And if that does happen, and you've got to remember it could happen very, very quickly as well. Within the space of a week of football starting up again, Liverpool could be champions. And it could be 1 step forward, 2 steps back if we have that kind of scenario. And it, makes you question as to where we go from there if breaches are broken of a high nature, shall we say. Not one or two fans, but I mean hundreds and hundreds turning up outside. Next piece of news involves the players. And of course, they're looking to be going back to full-time training. Premier League players will be required to provide written confirmation that they agree to the club's new safety measures before they return to group training. Clubs are required to conduct an occupational health risk assessment by Friday, May the 15th, and make results available to the Premier League on request. They also need to employ a COVID-19 officer. The officer must be a senior employee unconnected to the club's medical team or an external consultant or specialist. If a player or member of staff has shown symptoms and test positive for coronavirus, they must self-isolate for 7 days before a further test. If a player or member of staff has shown symptoms but tests negative for coronavirus, they must still isolate for 7 days before another test. In all cases, they will not be allowed to return to the training ground during that period. So yeah, one part in there that really does concern me, and this is my issue all along. If you have the symptoms of coronavirus, but you test negative, it doesn't mean that you're in the clear and you can just go back to training, everything's fine. You still got to go into isolation and wait for a further test because it may not be visible at the beginning. You know, and that period where you weren't being found positive for it, but you've now passed it on to other people and other players, and it's a never-ending cycle. And this is my concern with it being a contact sport. With you not knowing immediately whether you've got coronavirus or not, what happens then? Is it too little, too late? One step forward, two steps back? That's my concern. The last thing I want is the Premier League to start and then there's an outbreak and players and managers and whatever have coronavirus. That's the last thing that I want, because then the season will not be completed. I want it to be completed and to, you know, everything to run smoothly. But these are my concerns. I feel that we're still right in the peak of such a bad period. You know, there's still over 600 people dying a day in this country. And at the moment, football just doesn't take priority, in my opinion. So, next piece of news involves Thomas Partey and his potential move to Arsenal in the summer. But Thomas Partey could make a move to Arsenal as Premier League is the best in the world. Ghana teammate Kazim Nahu has stated. The midfielder's international colleague believes there is little difference between the stature of Atletico Madrid and Arsenal. Therefore, a move to North London would represent a step up in swapping the Liga for the English top flight. The Bundesliga defender told TV3 Atletico Madrid is a very good club. So he is playing at one of the biggest clubs in the world, and Arsenal are also one of the biggest. For me, it's his decision because playing for Atletico Madrid is the same as playing for Arsenal. The two teams always make the same category in the league, fighting for the third and fourth place to play in the Champions League. But as we all know, the Premier League is the best league in the world. So if he joins Arsenal, I will be happy for him. So yeah, this story just does not go away. And I'm not going to count my chickens too soon. And I'm not going to get happy until I see him on Arsenal.com holding up a shirt. But looking at all the reports and everything else, and they're speaking to friends, family, teammates, and this story just won't go away. And it's looking very, very likely that Arsenal could well get Thomas Partey in the summer. And I, for one, would be absolutely buzzing if we ended up getting him. But there's still a long way to go yet. You know, they need to complete the seasons in Spain, the Premier League, and then we can maybe look at next season and what happens. But I think that there's too many things in the way at the moment. Other priorities, to be quite honest with you. And one of those is completing the season or not. We don't know yet. And we'll wait and see what happens. But yeah, there's been talk of PSG maybe getting involved as well. But apparently Thomas Partey has no interest of moving to France. Doesn't want to go PSG. And he has his heart set on Arsenal apparently. So we will wait and see whether that's all just talk or whether you know, this can actually come true, because that will be a big signing if we can get that one, that's for sure. So there we go. That is it for today's DT's Daily. As usual, let me know in the comment section what you think about today's topics. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you smash a like on this video. I'll see you lot tomorrow. I'm out of here.